Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this, 29th day of October. Got a great show with you for tonight. Got the NFL Power 5. A lot of you seem to like the NFL Power 5. I'm going to talk about that tonight. Of course, Tomlin. Is it really just his issue with this Pittsburgh team? What are they, 30th in total defense right now? Same thing against the run, one of the worst run defenses in the league, one of the worst defenses in the league. Has he just simply ran his course? I'll talk about that. Great night the other night from Jordan Love. Just finished watching that game, had it recorded from Sunday night, of course. And listen, this coaching carousel in college is fascinating. I'm going to dig into it, talk a little bit about Brian Kelly. Of course, he was fired on Sunday afternoon, I want to say. And which the best job? Is it Florida? Is it LSU? I'll get into that. I'll get into what's being talked about. I'll get into what coaches have been possibly talked about as candidates. A few SEC coaches, one that people are not talking about. Bring him up, and even the governor. Somehow the governor's got some kind of say in this LSU coaching search, which is really fascinating. All that and more. Stand by. We'll take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily. Just me tonight, no guest. We'll hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty, then I'm back here live. I'm going to get a little bit closer to the screen here so everybody can hear me right. As far as NFL last weekend, we had 6 bye weeks and whatnot. I do think that we're starting to things are starting to shape up. We're starting to see who is legit, who we can really trust right now, who we cannot trust right now. A lot of it is what I expected. Your Steelers team, I expect them to be a little bit better than this, but they're just about on par from what I've seen. And a few surprises. I would say the biggest surprise would be the Indianapolis Colts right now, sitting there with the best record in the NFL. And I'll talk about them in the Power 5 as well, and their owner. I began a little pushback from her, not from the owner. That would be interesting if the owner said something about my comments, but the fact that I thought it was a little much for her wanting to listen on the headset to all the plays and whatnot, and it seems to be working out right now. So those are kind of my observations. We're coming right up on the midpoint in the season, folks. Tuesday will be the NFL trade deadline. I'll try to do a live show Tuesday, especially because I got a sense there's going to be some big moves done. I know teams like here in Nashville, the Titans traded Roger McCreary. I know he was in year 4, I guess, because he was basically in a contract year. Drafted in 22 as a second-round pick, basically given away. I want to say he had like 36, 38 career starts with Tennessee. And I thought to myself, well, if you hire a new coach, for example, what are you willing to keep him around to make sure that this guy may fit in that new coach's system or not? But I guess since you can't really franchise a second-round pick, I go, put a fifth-round you can't use the 5th-year option tag on a second-round pick, but I don't know. It seems like they're just trying to get rid of people just to get rid of people that this group did not bring in. rather than whether they're a good player or not. I know the Rams are very good, and I don't know they would just trade just for any clown. Just a few observations, but my whole point is, I do think that teams like losing a guy like an Ed Oliver there for a little while with Buffalo, they got to make some kind of move here. You know, the Giants have players that they could possibly go after. The Titans here in Nashville, all these bad teams, the Saints, uh, a team like Buffalo, San Francisco, those type of teams could contact your Jets, the San Francisco or whatnot. So that's something to keep an eye on here within the next, geez, tonight's Wednesday. It'd be 6 days from today. So, anyways, just a little food for thought there, folks. I want to give a shout out, by the way. I was doing Uber on Monday night to Ricardo. Ricardo, thank you for subscribing. Ricardo, my friend, I want to say I picked you up at the airport, dropped you off downtown from, I want to say, Raleigh. Ricardo's from the Raleigh area, but he's a big Dallas Cowboy fan. And I talked to Ricardo about our interview with Jim Jeffcoat last year, which I'm going to try to bring him back on. I got a lot of stuff to ask him about that documentary, the Jerry Jones documentary, and the Cowboys documentary, and whatnot. Bring Jim back on the program. A lot of people I do need to reach out to bring back on the program. Trust me. Just been really busy with the games itself, and the sporting news is coming in like a vacuum, folks. But thank you, Ricardo. I appreciate the tip, brother. And I appreciate you subscribing to the Sports Scope YouTube channel. I mean, Monday was a rough day for me. I had to hit a pothole on Monday. It was pouring down rain here pretty much all week here in Nashville area, and scraped a part of my tire up. I tore a chunk of rubber off the tire, but the tire wasn't losing air, so I had a discount tire to look at it. I said, well, you need to replace this. But, it was under warranty and everything, but I had to wait 3 hours to get a new tire, and it was so annoying. But I did work on some of today's program during that time. I did the Power 5 and whatnot. But I had some really good riders after that. I mean, I left around 6:15. I usually don't I try to drive. I get off around 3:15, drive to about 7. So I actually made quite a bit of money for a short period of time that I did drive Monday night. And one of my good riders was my man, Ricardo from Raleigh, North Carolina. So, anyways, I'm babbling. Let's get back to the notes. I'm babbling, rambling, or whatever you want to call it. Okay. I just finished this Sunday night's game, and I will say this. Man, great game by the Jordan Love. 20 straight completions at one point in this game. Tied a franchise record. Tied Brett Favre back in 2007, 20 straight completions at one point, really playing at an all-pro level. Looked like that they were just playing chess, and the Steelers defense was playing checkers. I mean, what are you going to do? And really, my argument really isn't about, and I do want to praise Green Bay, and they'll eventually get back in the Power 5. They should. I think they're like the 2 seed. Maybe the 1 seed in the NFC. They just really annoyed the crap out of me when they tied out Dallas, per se. But anyways, the story of this game is Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I mean, they were at home up by 9 at halftime, and they played last Thursday, which means that they had plenty of rest. They're not too far removed from their bye week, per se. And the Steelers gave up 28 second half points. Yes, you heard that right. 28 second half points to lose 35-25 at 40 years old. Does Pittsburgh expect Aaron Rodgers to win these shootouts every single week? I mean, Rodgers also mentioned that he had to use the silent count in his own state. The Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the most and I've been watching football, going to games on and off, more off than on, but for over 20-something years now, 25 years, 26 years. The first NFL game regular season game was the Titans back in September '99. My dad took me to see Raiders back in '93 playing the Colts up in Indianapolis. It was really cool. But in September '99, my point is those Steeler fans travel like nobody's business. And, I read that after the game. And Rodgers had said that, and Rodgers, and watched the game today. Watched, I recorded it because I wanted to see how well Jordan Love was playing. He had those 20 straight completions, and you could really hear "Go Pack Go," and and the commentators there, Chris Collinsworth, saying, yeah, they brought a lot of fans with them. And then, on top of that, Aaron Rodgers himself says, yeah, we had to use the silent count at home, which means the Steeler fans have lost so much faith in the Steelers. They know where this show's going. They know these Mike Tomlin teams are where they're going to go because it's been the same thing through different quarterbacks over the past, 5-6 years or so. I think the last time they won a playoff game was 2016 or something like that. It's just ridiculous amount of mediocrity and below. But they're selling their season tickets on the open market here to the opposing team's fans. I just get a sense that was a primetime game. This is a formidable opponent. They're a potential Super Bowl team. But the point is, it just tells you how much the fan base is really fragile and just losing interest in the product that's out there. His contract, Tomlin, is up in 27. And like my man Ralph Williams, I've had on the program, covers a team, lives up in the Pittsburgh area, on radio, local radio there. I know he's bounced around from radio stations and whatnot, but Ralph Williams covers the Steelers. Said he acknowledges that he's hearing that Tomlin will retire. Will retire after this 3-year stint. Well, he just signed that 3-year extension this past year, so I think he has 2 more years into this extension. And quite frankly, the fans know, and I've talked to the Steeler fans doing Uber. I get a nice gist of that. I do several rides a week, probably 40 or 50, and I'm always talking sports. I've got my cards up, posted with the QR codes on the back seats. People know. And more often than not, I get the same comment from Steelers fans, the same take, and that take is, we won't feast or famine. We either want to not. I mean, if we pay all this money, which is the highest paid defense in the league, we would have played like one of the highest paid defenses in the league, ranked 1 or 2, and they're not ranked now. They're like 30. I mean, they're terrible, but normally they're like 10, 12, mid-level defense. And sometimes they'll play great, and sometimes now they're just bad. There is no excuse. TJ Watt, McQueen back there, Hayward, all these good players that they brought in, just not playing up to par. And a lot of these guys are in their 30s. I think Watt's 31, 32. Hayward's like 35, the tackle there. Most of your players there on that side of the ball. And, of course, Rodgers, 40-something years old. Only thing they can really hang their hat on for the future would be probably Fatnu, the right tackle that they drafted a couple years ago out of Washington, if I'm not mistaken. But they're really, in a sense, they're in the situation the Titans are in here in Nashville. They're really a team that needs to be tore down to the studs. Totally tore down to the studs. Move off all these players. My guess is Rodgers will retire after this year, which he's hinted around anyways. And they will, but the guys like Hayward and all these guys just move off all these players and go out and get an offer. Think about it. This is one of the most secure jobs. It might not be, air quote, the best job in the NFL, but one of the most secure jobs in all of sports. Tomlin's been mediocre for years, and they just will not fire this guy. My old adage is, and it's been like this for years, he'll do just enough not to get fired. Just enough. So Steeler fans, you're just going to have to hold your breath and accept this for what it is for the next 2 years. And people from us on the outside looking in, it's just hard to get used to opposing fans making your quarterback at home use the silent count. I mean, this team needs quarterback. They need defense. They have most of that offensive line. I had to go back and check. I know, like I said, Fatnu and Broderick Jones are pretty decent, but I still think it's a good job. You would like to, if you're a Steelers fan, for Tomlin just to call it quits this year after this year and not even wait. I mean, the guy's made enough money there, 19 years. But would they fire him? Of course not. Like Ralph Williams told a story on this program that they're cheap. He used to work for the Steelers. They don't play their vending people much. I mean, the people that like giving them like a nickel raise and stuff. I know they pay T.J. Watt a lot of money, and they'll pay some players here and there, but from notoriously a pretty cheap organization, and that's what he. But it just is what it is. I expected it. Didn't expect the defense to be this bad. Maybe they make a move because they supposedly pushed all their chips inside, going out and getting guys like DK, which turned out to be a good player, DK Metcalf, getting rid of Pickens. Pickens is doing better with the change of scenery. But, yeah, they need to add some defense. Quite frankly, they need to let some defensive coaches go and make some adjustments there, bring in consultants there. But Tomlin's too proud for that. He simply ran what they really should do is just tell him, hey, retire, we'll fire you. That's what they really should do with Tomlin at this point, But that's not how they roll, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But I put a lot of time into that story because I simply thought that it was just using the snap count in a proud. Now, Miami, Arizona, LA, because they haven't had. I can understand that. But Pittsburgh, using the silent snap count in Pittsburgh, you being the home team, you're getting out cheered by the smallest town fan base in the NFL, the Green Bay Packers. Now, of course, the Packers have had such tremendous success with player personnel between Jordan Love, Rodgers and Favre. I just mentioned that Love tied Favre's completion percentage, consecutive single game going back 18 years. Success, everybody loves a winner. I think Newt Rodney said that, former Notre Dame coach. But anyways, it's just something to think about. I mean, to just basically get cheered out of your own stadium, that's just not Pittsburgh, Anyways, okay. Going to the Power 5. Going to the Power 5. All right, now, the Eagles are back in it. The Eagles are back in it at 5. May actually have them a little low. No offense, Eagle fans. But they seem to have the proper adjustments that they've made on the offensive side of the ball. Still have some trust issues. I noticed that they had a great day. A lot of balance. Now, it was against the Giants, kind of a small sample size. But A.J. Brown didn't even play Sunday. Kind of a weird leg scratch there. And there's some speculation I've read. I think Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk says he thinks that they could possibly be trying to secretly shop him to be traded. So he didn't want to play him last week to get him to keep him healthy, to possibly trade him coming up on Tuesday, which is that trade deadline that's mentioned. But either way, they won 64 points the last 2 games, knocked the Rams out of the spot. Note, the best LA team earlier this season also They beat that LA Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley ran for 150 yards rushing, 24 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Remember, this guy's been missing in action. They couldn't get any holes for him. Got one early in the first quarter, and I had him on fantasy, and that dude went off to the races, man. About 65 yards, I want to say. I had him on DraftKings. Thank you, Saquon. Won a few dollars off that particular lineup. Got them at 5. You want to look at their up front. Still probably one of the most talented teams in the NFL, if not player for player, the most talented team in the NFL. They brought back Brandon Graham to help them out with edge. And they also may be active in the trade market. Howard Roseman is a guy who's never satisfied, unlike a Pittsburgh Steelers. They never sit on their hands. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make a move to try to get an edge rusher. But anyways, okay, got them at 5. Number 4, Rams. Got the Rams. I like the consistency of the Rams. I know the Eagles beat them, blah, blah, blah. But still like the consistency. Love that up front defense. I mentioned the sacks and whatnot between, Jared Verse and Byron Young there. They just traded, I mentioned earlier in the program, for Roger McCreary from Tennessee, slot corner. Got rave reviews at times from Tennessee. Got about, 36, 38 career starts there. Going to add a little bit of depth there for the cornerback position. They still may make another move by the deadline. Not really a weak spot there for this particular team, other than maybe keeping Stafford upright. We know he had his back problems coming in, but I'm still really impressed the way they went to on a short trip there. Went in very business-like trip, clean the Rams clock or the Jaguars clock, and then come back. And of course they had their bye week. I expect a lot of big things out of this team. Definitely a Super Bowl legitimate contender, starting to live up to that. Okay. Like I said, Byron Young, Jared Verse, excellent defense, right back in it. I think if they played them again, I think they probably would beat the Eagles. Well, they had them beat last time, and it was block extra kick and turn around touchdown the other way. Eagles got pretty lucky there. Okay, number 3 probably should be, some would probably say I got them a little low at 3, probably should be higher. But right now, I'll explain it here in a minute. The Colts, the Indianapolis Colts, now have the league's best points differential, 116. They are destroying teams. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, the Titans look like an expansion team against the Colts. There are 3 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor, having a Marshall Faulk-like season like he did in 1999. Just an absolute beast of a player. I had some notes here on him screenshotted, and I got to find them for Marshall Faulk. I mean, they would be the number 1 seed if the playoffs started today. 850 yards rushing, 5.9 yards per carry, 12 rushing touchdowns, 206 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. I mean, we talk about them every week. Best offensive line, according to Pro Football Focus in football right now. Defensive line, solid. 160. Listen, Lou Amorano, probably not a head coach material, but he was a big scapegoat for Cincinnati, and they just got beat by the Jets here. Justin Fields, without his leading receiver, has a field day, per se. Justin Fields has a field day against the Cincinnati's defense. So it really wasn't Lou Amorano wasn't the issue. He's having a great, and he may get a head coaching job because of this, but he's having a great year with the Indianapolis Colts there. So I've got them, like I said, and plus they play the Steelers this week. I don't think it's going to be any better for the Steelers with that offensive line and that Jonathan Taylor running the football there. And of course, comeback player of the year right now is Daniel Jones, with his 70+ completion percentage, low touchdown to intercept. And here's the main thing about Daniel Jones. He's playing with confidence this year. He's making quick decisions, you know. But they really went to a new level when they went on the road and beat the Chargers like that. I got a feeling they're going to do the same with the Steelers come Sunday, but we'll see coming up Sunday. They got them at number 3. Okay, number 2. I tell you what, both these teams fully healthy, I would probably pick the Lions. Would you take Daniel Jones or Jared Goff? I'd probably take experienced Jared Goff, Super Bowl playing Jared Goff, and this balance of players. By the way, Aiden Hutchinson just signed a big extension. Congratulations. Heck of an edge rusher. But I got the Lions here at number 2. Pretty healthy minus cornerback when they come off this bye. This past week, they got a big game against Minnesota, and I think they'll probably tee off on them. A team that has 2 years of playoff experience, a better pass rush. They're 5th in sacks. The third. Think about it. They're 5th in sacks. Didn't even play this past week. They're 3rd in points. With a much tougher schedule here than a team like a Colts who played Tennessee twice in Miami. So I do like the Colts, but they have beat up on some pretty bad teams. The Colts of Miami, not good. And as much as I do praise the Colts, I got to be realistic here. I got to call all the balls and strikes. Remember, the Denver game was a guy got it was a late hit or something, and it was a 5-yard penalty, and the Colts hit the game-winning field goal. But if it's not for that penalty, the Colts missed that field goal, and Denver beats them. And that was one of the other tougher teams. So I like them, but I don't think they're just, I like Detroit better at this time. And I do think that Detroit is the number 2 team if the playoffs started today in my Power 5. Now, number 1, since they're in the playoffs, if the playoffs started today, they would be a wild card team. I guess it's pretty much, you probably would guess it pretty easy. That is correct. The Kansas City Chiefs, last 3 games, average margin of victory, 21 points. Issues on the O-line seem to be an early issue. It's not perfect, a little banged up, but you look at the defense, only 6 points in the last 2 games. I mean, wow. Man. 7 points the last 2 games. Playing great. Rashid Rice looking like he just hasn't missed a beat here. They got a big game this week against Buffalo. That's going to come down to injury reports and everything. For Buffalo, I would lean Buffalo if Milano plays. I would lean Kansas City if Buffalo does not play. Milano does not. That's the linebacker there for Buffalo. I think he's that important to their run defense. So, all right, number 1, Kansas City. Number 2, Detroit Lions. Number 3, the Indianapolis Colts. Number 4, the LA Rams. And number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles. That's my Power 5. If the playoffs started today, that would be my, of course, honorable mention. Yes, I know Green Bay seemed to have bounced back. They're right there within an honorable mention. The New England Patriots, right there as well, honorable mention. But, the Patriots, another team that's played the Saints. They played Miami. They played Tennessee. They played Cleveland. They're beating up on the back. They did beat Buffalo, but in college terms, they've had a lot of Austin Peay, which is where I went. They've had a lot of Mississippi Valley states. Not enough LSUs and Alabamas on that schedule if you were talking like in a college type of setting. Okay? All righty then. People love our top 5 biggest games picking, and they, as I noticed, the views are started going up here on YouTube. And I notice a lot of people do like to watch and listen to my Power Five. I appreciate that. Listen, I'm just fascinated, folks. And not to jump to the college game so soon, but I like to just go to the big stories. And I am absolutely fascinated with the jobs that are available, and it's not even technically Halloween yet. Okay, Florida's available, Penn State's available now. Brian Kelly, who lost, I mean, just blown out at home by Texas. That was the big game to get them to turn their season around, and just blown out at home by Texas A&M. And now he's been fired. And you know something? I look at all these coaches firings, and you look at the fact that they had $18 million in NIL money, um, and that NIL money spent this past off season looked good against Clemson. Then we find out Clemson's not that good. The loss to Ole Miss, and then of course even before the Vanderbilt game, like I said, I've carried around doing Uber here in Nashville. I was carrying around some LSU fans who are highly opinionated and never shy about what they think. And said more often than not, particularly this one guy and his wife who's telling me we're done with Kelly. No matter what happens tomorrow, we're really done with Kelly. You know, but listen, they've spent $5.5 million last year, $18 million in NIL money. You got a $90-something million contract. I think it's like 50-something was his buyout. Brian Kelly in year 4. Mind you, folks, this team had 3 coaches. The last 3 coaches had all won national championships there. I mean, you go back to Les Miles, or you go back to Ed Orgeron, then Les Miles, and of course, then ultimately the great Nick Saban. All won national championships, all won in year 4. Okay, well, this was year 4 for Brian Kelly. Okay, and listen, Kelly, what really threw me off, and this was early on, going back to his first year there, was in 22. And the fact that his teams weren't physical as those Notre Dame teams bogged my mind. And I'm thinking, when is this going to click in? Remember, this guy coached, Brian Kelly coached Quentin Nelson, 3-time All-Pro guard. Guy, if he plays another few years, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Very physical guard, plays for this Colts team, great Colts team, best offensive line of football. But guys like that, good offensive line play, fundamentally sound, solid defense, just barely losing to really good teams, loaded teams like Georgia by a touchdown, by a field goal. Playing at just getting Notre Dame, just everything. Remember, he played for a national championship at Notre Dame. Then at one time he got in a little bit of a slump there for a little while at Notre Dame. And the criticisms were the guy was just being too harsh on players, being a bit of a jerk towards players. So he softened up a little bit there. And then so as they get back on track, they start winning 12 games again and whatnot. And then, of course, go up to 22, and then that's when he the LSU makes the big moves, hires him. And then, of course, Notre Dame hires Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman becomes a star coach. And he comes down to LSU, and they just don't look physical at all. The defense, he had to fire the defensive coordinator. Second year with the new defensive coordinator, and all this extra NIL money spent, and just nothing to show for it. Yeah, you got Jalen Daniels. You had the Heisman Trophy winning player. Yeah, you did go to an SEC championship only to get walloped. And from what I read, going reading over athletic stories and listen to other national columnists and sports talk people, analysts that go deeper into the college. They said and this is something I noticed with the recruiting rankings, he didn't get down there and recruit hard like even though they have all the resources, like Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron's mainly been a defensive line coach in his career. So he's not even considered head coaching material, but he did bring in, at his credit, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Ja'Marr Chase. I mean, just baller after baller. And in your Les Miles, you had guys like Marcus Spears, just good, solid defensive players, fast players, just very, very physical, you know. And that's just, you never saw it. You never saw the consistency here. You know, I mentioned the other day, Vanderbilt, I couldn't believe that they were just blowing I'm not used to seeing Vanderbilt blow up their offensive line like that. And Nussmeier running for his life, throwing. I mean, I was like, man, Vanderbilt looks like LSU used to look like, you know. But I knew this year was going to be crucial. I'm like, okay, man, you got this guy. We know what you're paying him. You know you're in year 4. People, that stuff about faking the accent and all that, faking the Southern accent, all that's overlooked if not unless you win games. Winning cures all, as long as you're not getting in too much trouble where they can't sweep it under the rug. That's the raw truth. And just lost his physicality. And you know, I'm watching this SEC thing about with the SEC preview show I was telling you about the other day on Netflix, and people wanted Brian Kelly. I was also talking about how the fans wanted Brian Kelly out, and of course they got their wish now, right? But it's just because the fans, they don't see it. They don't see it. So at first you see this, you kind of feel bad for Kelly. Then you say, well, he knows what was expected of him when you get a check like that. He knows what he's expected of him. And he knows that it's just losing 3 or 4 games a year is not what they're trying to win national championship, especially by year 4. You know, considering the fact that, like I said, so if you and listen, a lot now the question is, what's a better job? Paul Feinbaum, which I agree with, the great Paul Feinbaum, says it is the better job. Is it Florida? And listen, 15 years ago, back when, say, Urban Meyer just left, Urban Meyer coming off 2 national championships, Heisman with Tebow. Tebow was a big part of one. On another team, but I think Chris Leak was the big passer this freshman year. And then you got Spurrier before that, a few years before that, when he won back in '96. But he had also been a multiple national championship. He also, I guess that's torch, but he '95. So, and then you look at the location of Florida, right in the middle of the best recruiting state out there, hotbed, Florida, Gainesville. You would say Florida's the better job, right? But then you fast forward later, 15 years to today, and look back. I mean, you can make the argument that LSU, Ohio State are the 2 best jobs in the country. You go back 20 years, or you go back to the start of the millennium or whatever, 2000. Those are the only 2 that's won 3 national championships with 3 different head coaches. LSU or Ohio State, you had Tressel, Urban Meyer, current coach now. You know, and of course he was on the hot seat, right? And then of course LSU, Saban, Les Miles. I never even heard of Les Miles. He come from Oklahoma State or whatever. Never heard of Les Miles. Then of course Ed Orgeron, which was a major reach. He talked the language, but all those guys can recruit. Now we know Saban can do it all, but it's a great program. It's probably the best program in America. The recruiting bed's there. The desire to win is there. The money's there. You know, look at all the great players. It used to be called wide receiver U, probably still is. Maybe you give that slight edge now because uh, Kelly's not quite bringing them in the way they have been coming in, but maybe you give the slight edge to Ohio State as far as wide receiver U right now. Now, of course, that can be turned around. It's in a hotbed area, right? So, as far as my point is, and listen, there's even guys like Josh Heupel up here in Tennessee, and this is from Fox Sports Nashville, for example. Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel was placed on LSU's hot board by On3's the Bengal Tiger. The argument for Heupel to stay is asking how big a difference there is between what he's built at Tennessee and potential at LSU, said On3's Matthew Braun. It would take a massive investment for LSU to pull this off if this school and program want to show that they are the class of the SEC. This type of move that stamps it. Is Heupel even moving realistic? I tell you what, the fan, you talk about turn on a guy. He would hear it. Heupel would really hear it. Because listen, Josh Heupel played for Oklahoma and won a national championship in 2000. During that time period, he knows that Tennessee won a national championship in 1998 and one game away in 2001 from playing for another national championship. So it's not like Tennessee's that far off. Tennessee was in the playoff last year. Tennessee, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty good up to this point. I got a pretty good track record. They're about two or three really solid defensive players, particularly inside, maybe a good corner, about two defensive tackles specifically away from potentially winning a national championship again themselves. So the talk is, who do they broach? Obviously, Lane Kiffin, who's been brought up with Florida. His name's also being thrown in with LSU. And of course, this is the better job. But does he want to hear it when he plays Ole Miss again as a LSU coach? Does he really want to deal with that kind of when he's making his own name at LSU? He would probably be, or at Ole Miss, he would probably be a better fit at Florida. He's friends with Steve Spurrier. His personality is comparable to a Steve Spurrier. The way he picks at everybody, talks trash, very good with quarterbacks. I told you the young men I've had on the program, two quarterbacks that play here in Tennessee, 3-star guys. They want to play for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. They think he's cool. They like the way he designs plays. Hey, we saw what he did. The quarterback did there. It was a transfer at Ole Miss against Georgia. 5 possessions, 5 straight touchdowns against the Georgia defense. Ain't what it used to be, but still, it was very impressive. It kind of reminded me of Matt LaFleur coaching up Jordan Love against that awful Pittsburgh defense where he had 20 straight completions. They put 28 points up in the second half. But I think he would be a better fit down there. He knows he can get better players down there. He knows that speed is down there. He's also coached at Florida Atlantic or something before he got this Ole Miss job. But here, listen to what Nick Saban said about him, which I thought was pretty interesting because they're a potential playoff team right now as we speak, since they got that big win on the road. There at Oklahoma, which I was wrong about. All right. Nick Saban suggests that Lane Kiffin has already had a better job at Ole Miss than he would at LSU or Florida. He says, quote, jobs that aren't were great jobs before now Lane is the first name up for Florida and the first name up for LSU, but I think you could have a long decade or either one of those jobs actually better than the job he has now because he has some guys over there at LSU that give him pretty much whatever he wants from a roster standpoint. Maybe you've got alumni who are passionate about football, but they're willing to invest what you have to invest now to win because a lot of people don't believe in this bleep that rhymes with it. So, why not start your own legacy there? You know, I was for sure that the Indiana coach, Legetti or whatever his name is, that he was going to get bought out and somebody's going to get him. You know, whether it's going to be Penn State or one of these big schools down here, Kirk Cinetti, excuse me. And no, Indiana said no. Signed him a $90-something million extension after you go and beat Oregon. Now, this guy's in his early 60s. Now, he looks about 51, looks young. A lot of these coaches do because they're around young people and whatnot. And I was just really surprised. I just think that we, as fans and as analysts and whatnot, that I thought that the budget for NIL was so crucial that these coaches would get more of a leash. They would have more room to make mistakes. That the teams would hang on to them a year or two longer. Well, so much for thinking that. The flip side is there is a lot of money in these playoff games. There is a lot of money that's being generated, more than we could imagine, to these big conferences and universities. And we're seeing it with these major buyouts. Jimbo Fisher a year ago. Penn State, 50-something million dollars. Get out of here. James Franklin, Brian Kelly, get out of here. A few weeks ago, I played the lady from Alabama. She says she won the Powerball, whatever. It was like $1 billion. She'd buy out the Alabama head coach. Now, of course, they went on a winning streak now, and they have a potential Heisman Trophy candidate there. She's talking about buying that coach out after they lost week 1 against Florida State. So it's really interesting. I guess my point is that I just do not think that LSU should buy out one of these big name coaches, go after a Lane Kiffin, or go after a Josh Heupel per se, or even a Clark Lee, maybe a Clark Lee. They would be physical again with Clark Lee, but I think there's such a good brand that with him being in his 60s, Brian showed that he didn't have the energy to go out and recruit. And I know it's a little different now, to recruit hard the way he probably should have at LSU. So why not take a chance? I just mentioned they won a national championship with Ed Orgeron. But why not take a chance with the let me make sure, this Tulane coach here, John Summerall, no relation to Pat Summerall. This guy came from Troy 2022. He was 12-2, then 11-2, then at Tulane the last 2 years, 9-5 last year overall record. Now he's 6-1. 43-year-old, young, hungry, familiar with the South. Maybe interview him for the job. Of course, the odds makers have him as the favorite to get the job, per se. Or the I'm gonna erase that video there. Let me see here. I had some odds here. Okay. Or maybe Brett Key from Georgia Tech, who hasn't had a loss yet this year. Another guy, 47, young, hungry, familiar with the South. I think they could take a chance here and not get booed out of their own stadium. Just find out how good a recruiter he is. These guys, obviously, you know what type of schemer they are. Now, Joe Brady's been mentioned on this list. He's the guy that put together he was the offensive coordinator with Joe Burrow and that group for that national championship team, I want to say. He's got NFL and college experience. He would be a wild card. Obviously, James Franklin's here. There's no way. The LSU. Now, they would be ticked off if you took James Franklin. I think Jim Jumbo Fisher's still in there. But I'd go young and hungry. I don't think they'll get Marcus Freeman. I don't think they'll get Urban Meyer and Nick Saban, bring those two guys back. But these are just some of the odds here that I was reading off of ESPN here at 104. 5 ESPN, one of the local ESPN. That might have been the station down there in Baton Rouge area. But anyways, that's what I think they should do. As far as Florida, if you can't get a Lane Kiffin, look at this list as well. A Jeff Brom would be good if you could keep Lagway there at Florida, which I think he will. He says he's a Florida guy. He must have a girlfriend down there or something. The quarterback there. Maybe get Jeff Brom there from Louisville, who, by the way, just beat Miami a few weeks ago. Very good with quarterbacks. I like the way his teams look at. Maybe drill him on recruiting as well. It's not a lock like at Florida. They've had some bad coaches there that didn't do nothing there. Jim McElway, Ron Zook. Remember those guys? Will Muschamp. Guys that just didn't cut it. You do have to coach some. You do have to coach some here. So, anyways, by the way, I did want to play about the patience thing. After looking further into it, I'm okay with these fines. But here's a quote from an interesting comment from Deion Sanders when asked, by the way, he's not a hot commodity. He's had some health problems. I'd give him a pass this year. He's had some serious health problems and whatnot. Had surgeries and stuff. He's got diabetes stuff with his foot and everything. I don't even know if he's going to coach after this year or not. I hope he does. I like his personality. But listen, when he was asked about these all these job openings in college football coming up, listen up from Deion Sanders earlier this week. I think say this was yesterday.
Recently, we've seen a theme across the college ball landscape where teams are moving on from their coaches faster than ever. Do you think that these schools and fan bases have lost the sense of patience in the process of building?
Well, there's no one patience in this world. How do we exude patience when we could call up right now and get a pizza delivered right here? You could call and get a ride waiting outside for you. Everything is expeditious in this country. Everyone wants the quick fix, the quick things. You got mail order brides too, right? You get married, right away. You could get a BBL. You could come in here flat as I don't know what, and leave thick as a snicker. So this is a different country that we live in, man. Ain't nobody got no patience no more. I understand that, and I don't either. I don't have patience as well. I want things done right now because I'm used to getting up there working, putting in the work, and you want the results from the work you put in. It don't oftentimes work like that. That's a great question.
Yeah, actually, I had that downloaded, and I should have played it. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So he says, well, yeah, look at it. You can call, and that's true. I drive Uber, and, I would turn the app on, and I would be less than 1/4 of a mile away from a person that wants a ride to the airport, per se. You can push a button and you get DoorDash real quick. You get that. And talk about women getting BBS, whatever, which I thought was funny, coming out thick as a snicker. But then he said, hey, listen, I don't got a lot of patience either. So he really does agree with me. But I think, go young, the opposite of a Titans team. I tell LSU, go young and hungry. Go young and hungry. Go the opposite of what you did. That would be my advice for them. Okay, folks, I'll be back tomorrow. We got some big games coming up this weekend. We'll myself and the Mad New Yorker will break them down and pick them. Appreciate everybody watching. If you like the show, please share the show. Okay. And like I said, I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, here on the Real Sports Scope. Good night, everybody.